In this module, we're going to talk about how DLD can impact academics. Most learning experiences in today's classrooms are highly language intensive and also are dependent on strong executive function skills. When we consider teacher-directed lessons, class discussions, group projects, reading assignments, and written work, we can see how DLD and potentially executive function deficits can impact all of those areas. I want to start by discussing vocabulary, which is such an essential part of academics. Kids with DLD can have several issues with vocabulary. To begin with, they tend to recognize or understand fewer words than their peers, whether they're spoken or written words, since word learning can be much more challenging for kids with DLD than for many other kids. Our kids with DLD tend to require more exposure to a word in order to learn it than many other children do. So, if they're not exposed to a word frequently, they may not learn it at all or remember it at all. Words that are not concrete, like words you can't easily draw a picture of, might be even harder for your child to learn and understand. I'm talking about words like before, although, characteristics, including, similarly. Those types of words that we use as our language becomes more advanced can be really hard for kids with DLD. They may not necessarily understand what those words mean when they're read aloud to them or when they're used in a discussion, and that can result in a lot of confusion. We will talk more in this module about types of vocabulary words you can work on and strategies you can use with your children, so stay tuned. We also know that our kids tend to use even fewer words than they understand, so their language is not varied and is sometimes vague rather than providing specific information. Another issue with vocabulary is that our kiddos may have less awareness of morphemes, which are small parts of words that hold meaning. You may be familiar with the terms prefixes and suffixes, where we add a part to the beginning or ending of a word to change its meaning, like adding re, which means again, to do, resulting in the word redo, which means do again. We can also add re, that little prefix, to other words to get new words like rebuild, renewable, rewrite, and so on. When children are not familiar with the meaning prefixes and suffixes carry, this can impact their ability to make an educated guess on what a new word they encounter might mean. For example, if an older child hears the word trilingual for the first time, they may be able to use their knowledge that tri means three, as in the word triangle, triceratops, tricycle, and they may also have knowledge of the words bilingual, speaking two languages, and maybe monolingual, speaking one language, so they can put all of that together and make a great guess that trilingual probably means something to do with proficiency in three languages. Awareness of what these word parts mean, also known as morphological awareness, can be severely lacking in kids with DLD. And so we need to teach them this kind of stuff explicitly. Again, many kids with DLD lack awareness that the little parts of words we add to the beginning or the end of words change the meaning. Other examples could be thought versus thoughtless, read versus reread. So consider checking in with your child's speech-language pathologist to see if your child has any goals in the area of morphology, and then ask how you can best support your child in this area. We also know that vocabulary knowledge is hugely important in literacy skill development. It is much more likely that a child will correctly read a word if it is a known word. Vocabulary is also incredibly important for reading comprehension. It is very hard to grasp the main idea of a story if it contains many words you don't understand. Vocabulary deficits impact academic progress in many ways, and as the child ages, also affect employment opportunities and quality of life. Now, imagine you were plunked into a grade 5 classroom learning about computer coding, and 3/4 of the lesson was taught in English, but 1/4 of the words mixed in throughout the lesson were spoken in Punjabi, or if you're a Punjabi speaker, spoken in a different language you don't know. Even though you understood many of the words, it could be really hard to put everything together due to the many words you didn't understand, especially if you weren't familiar with many coding concepts in the first place. What if you also didn't understand some of the sentence structures or the word order of some of the sentences? Then, when you were asked to read a paragraph about coding due to written language deficits, you misread 6 important words in that paragraph, some of which you were completely unfamiliar with, and you didn't realize that you had read them incorrectly in the first place. This would make it really challenging to develop an accurate understanding of the main coding concepts being presented, and also make it super hard to stay focused. It would be so much easier to just zone out. That is actually really similar to how a lot of our kids with DLD experience learning new concepts. In addition to not understanding or using nearly as many words as other kids in the class, our kids with DLD may also struggle to find the words that they truly do know in a timely fashion. This is called difficulty with lexical access, and it's also sometimes referred to as word-finding difficulty. We all experience the sensation of having a word on the tip of our tongue, but this may happen much more frequently for kids with DLD. Imagine it's time to write a 3-sentence answer on a timed test, or imagine you need to quickly respond when the teacher asks you a question, but you struggle to think of the words that you know so that you can show what you know. You do have some of the appropriate vocabulary words stored in your mental dictionary, but you just can't seem to find them quickly when you need them, perhaps partially because they haven't been stored efficiently, and you lack neural connections and associations between words. Later in the course, we will talk about how you can help your child store words more efficiently in their mental dictionary. When your child experiences difficulties with communication many times every day, that can lead to a lack of confidence or lack of desire to answer questions in class as they get older, even when they actually know the answer. When it's time to share their ideas in class discussion, they may have some wonderful ideas, but because they don't understand all the words in the question or have all the words they need in their expressive vocabulary, or maybe they actually do know the words, they understand everything, but they struggle to access the words that they need quickly, they might choose to just not share. And if they do share and it comes out all jumbled up, then teachers and peers may develop an incorrect perception of the child's intelligence. The child with DLD may actually have an incredible idea, like we said, but the challenge with expressing it using words may feel so great that they decide not to share their idea. Even if they know all the vocabulary that they need and they are able to access it, they still might not want to share due to so many experiences with self-consciousness in similar situations in the past. Math word problems can also be difficult for your child. He or she may be awesome or relatively good at math facts, but then when it comes to a word problem, your child might find that so much harder. For example, let's say the question said, Sam drank 3/4 of a bottle of juice this week. Mo drank 7 times more juice than Sam. How many bottles of juice did Mo drink? Write your answer as a fraction or as a whole or mixed number. This can be so much more overwhelming for our kids than a paper with a simple equation without words might be. Our kids with DLD might not understand vocabulary words like fraction, mixed number, sum, quotient, product, or even remaining. That can be really challenging. And when they're all together in a sentence and there's complex grammar as well, they can feel totally lost. It doesn't even feel like math some of the time. Much more difficulty with math word problems than math facts is really common for our kids with DLD.